Hello and welcome to the latest video on my channel, and this video is another top 10 by country. Okay, so on this video we are featuring the top 10 Filipino boxers of all time. The Philippines has a great history in boxing, and despite what some more modern fans think, great Filipino fighters have gone back all over the decades, right back to the 1920s and beyond. It really does have a deeper history than many people would think. Another disclaimer is fighters like Donny Nietes, Nonito Donaire are not yet in my all-time rankings, okay, due to retirements and things like that, so they will not be entered, they will enter later. So let us start the countdown. Okay, let us go to fighter number 1. Okay, in 10th place, okay, it is Ben Villaflor, the former world champion. Ben Villaflor beat 2 world champions. He scored 2 wins against champions. He beat no Hall of Fame fighters, also scored no wins against Hall of Famers. And Ben Villaflor scored 5 title fight wins. He made 6 title defenses, and he scored 3 title fight KOs. Now Villaflor, okay, scored a total of 31 knockouts in his career. He was pound for pound rated for 0 years. He was also pound for pound number 1 rated for 0 years, and he scored 2 wins against pound for pound fighters, but no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. Ben Villaflor captured 2 world titles and 2 lineal titles, with no undisputed titles won. So he takes 10th place. I've dropped my pen lid, it drives me mad. There it is. Swap it for a different one. So on to number 9. Now number 9 is a fantastic little fighter called Small Montana. Small Montana, okay, going back a long time, nearly a century, beat 2 world champions. Okay, he scored 3 wins against champions, and Small Montana beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, also scoring 3 wins against Hall of Famers. Now Montana scored 2 title fight wins. He made 1 title defense, and he scored 0 title fight KOs. And Small Montana scored a total of 11 knockouts in total. He was pound for pound rated for 0 years, and also pound for pound number 1 rated for 0 years. Small Montana did score 3 wins against pound for pound fighters, but no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Small Montana captured 1 title. He captured 0 lineal titles and 0 undisputed titles. This a video that highlights numbers, because the number 1, of course, his numbers are quite insane compared to many people in the top 10, even though there's many great little fighters in there. It's staggering when you see some fighters compared to others on slide. So from Small Montana in number 9 we go to the 8th greatest Filipino boxer of all time, and it is another not well known fighter called Little Dado. Again, going back in time. Now Little Dado, fantastic little fighter he was. He beat 2 world champions, he scored 2 wins against champions, and he beat no Hall of Fame fighters, also scoring no wins against Hall of Famers. Little Dado scored 1 title fight win. He made 0 title defenses and scored 0 title fight KOs. And Little Dado was pound for pound rated for 0 years. He was pound for pound number 1 rated for 0 years, but he did score 2 wins against pound for pound fighters, and Little Dado scored 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. Now Little Dado captured 1 world title, 0 lineal titles, and 0 undisputed titles. So there is Little Dado in number 8. Oh, it's asking me to do that. That's strange. Right, so on to number 7. So in number 7 is a fighter that Freddie Roach liked a lot, okay, is Jerry Penalosa. Jerry Penalosa beat 7 world champions. He scored 8 wins against champions. And Penalosa beat no Hall of Fame fighters, also scored no wins against Hall of Famers. And Penalosa scored a total of 5 title fight wins. He made 4 title defenses, and Penalosa scored 4 title fight KOs. Now in terms of overall career knockouts, Penalosa scored a total of 37. He was pound for pound pound rated for 1 year, and he was pound for pound number 1 rated for 0 years. And Jerry Penalosa, okay, scored no wins against pound for pound fighters and no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. But Penalosa did capture 2 world titles. He captured 1 lineal title and 0 undisputed titles. So Jerry Penalosa comes in number 7. When we go to fighter number 6, okay, is hard punching and strong Luisito Espinosa. Now Luisito Espinosa beat 6 world champions, okay, he scored 7 wins against champions, and Espinosa beat no Hall of Fame fighters, also scored no wins against Hall of Famers. He made 11 title fight wins in his career. He had a lot of title fights. He made 9 title defences, and Luisito Espinosa scored 6 title fight KOs. Now in terms of career KOs, Espinosa scored 26. He was pound for pound rated for 2 years, but he was never pound for pound number 1 rated. And Luisito Espinosa scored 3 wins against pound for pound fighters, but 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. Now Luisito Espinosa captured 2 titles. He captured 0 lineal titles and 0 undisputed titles. So hard punching Luisito Espinosa is in 6th place. When we go to 5th place, okay, is fantastic little fighter Pablo Dano, who has an enormous amount of fights against rated opponents, as you will see when his career video comes in time. Pablo Dano beat 5 world champions. He scored 6 wins against world champions, and he beat 4 individual Hall of Fame fighters. Pablo Dano scoring 4 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Now Pablo Dano scored no title fight wins. He made 0 title defences and scored 0 title fight KOs. And Pablo Dano scored a career total of 37 knockouts. He was pound for pound rated for 0 years and also pound for pound number 1 for 0 years. But Dano did though score 3 wins against pound for pound fighters. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters, and he captured no world titles, no lineal titles, and no undisputed titles. So the excellent Pablo Dano, who had dozens and dozens of fights against rated opponents, he had a very, very tough career. So let's go on to number 4, the 4th greatest Filipino boxer of all time, and it is hard punching Seferino Garcia, who I think goes a bit underrated by some and a bit overrated by others, and there's some in the middle who rate him just about right, as Clarkson would say. So Seferino Garcia beat 1 world champion. He scored 1 win against a champion, and he beat 2 individual Hall of Fame fighters. Garcia scored 3 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Seferino Garcia scored 2 title fight wins. He made 1 title defense, and he scored 2 title fight KOs. And Seferino Garcia scored a massive total of 76 knockouts, that, if I'm not mistaken, still is the record for knockouts by any Filipino boxer as a professional. Seferino Garcia was pound for pound rated for 2 years. He was pound for pound number 1 rated for 0 years. And Seferino Garcia scored 6 wins against pound for pound fighters, but no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Garcia captured 1 title. He captured 0 lineal titles and 0 undisputed titles. So from Seferino Garcia in 4th, we go to the big 3. The first of them, okay, his name came from different sources and merged together. Pancho Villa, fantastic little flyweight fighter. I remember reading an old article with Jimmy Wilde, and Jimmy Wilde, when Pancho Villa ripped the title from him after Jimmy Wilde had been champion from 1916 to 1923, Jimmy Wilde said he was hitting Pancho Villa with everything, but he just couldn't stop him coming. He was so aggressive and his forward momentum, he just couldn't stop him. Fantastic little fighter. So Pancho Villa beat 6 world champions. He scored 12 wins against world champions, and Villa beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters individually and scored 4 wins against Hall of Famers in his career. Now Pancho Villa scored 5 title fight wins. He made 4 title defences, and Pancho Villa scored 1 title fight KO. Now in overall career KOs, Pancho Villa scored a total of 22, and he was pound for pound rated for 1 year in my all-time rankings, but was never pound for pound number 1 rated. He scored a total of 3 wins against pound for pound fighters, but no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Pancho Villa captured 1 world title, 1 lineal title, and 1 undisputed title. Fantastic little fighter he was, Pancho Villa. So we have 2 to go, and in second place, the runner-up position is one of the great super featherweight champions of all time. And people even now talk about super featherweight, and even now many people don't mention, Gabriel the Little Flash Elord. Fantastic fighter he was, caused a stir when he beat Sandy Sadler in the first fight. Most people didn't expect him to have much of a chance, but he beat Sandy Sadler, announcing that he was a major fighter. Now, Gabriel Elord beat 4 individual champions. He scored 5 wins against champions. And Elord beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters and scored 2 wins against Hall of Famers. Now, Gabriel Elord scored 11 world title fight wins. He made 10 title defences and he scored 5 title fight KOs. Now, Gabriel Elord, when he's overall in his career, scored 33 knockouts. He was pound for pound rated for 3 individual years, but he was never pound for pound number 1 rated. And Gabriel Elord scored 2 wins against pound for pound fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. So Gabriel Elord captured 3 world titles. He captured 1 lineal title and 1 undisputed title. One of the longest reigning super featherweight champions and one of the greatest super featherweight champions Gabriel Elord was. So that leaves one name. So in 2025, of the Boxing Librarian by country rankings, the greatest Filipino boxer of all time is, probably without much surprise, the modern great Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Pacquiao, when I was first covering him, people were talking about how great he was, and I always tried to temper it. But I've also always said that Pacquiao is my choice as the greatest fighter of the 4-belt era. For a start, that's one thing. His set of accomplishments is incredible. And also, even for a modern fighter, when you look at fighters like Spence and Crawford and all these other fighters, Pacquiao's resume is so much deeper and larger than even top 5 pound-for-pounders now. I mean, his resume is so staggering. His career is so huge, for well over 2 decades, fighting many, many top-level fighters, being a 4-time welterweight champion, trying to become a welterweight champion a 5th and then 6th time. Quite incredible, really. So the great Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao beat 21 individual world champions. He scored 25 wins. See what I mean about the numbers compared to the others in the top 10. He scored 25 wins against champions. And Pacquiao has beaten 8 Hall of Fame fighters, what is a staggering total for a modern fighter. Pacquiao scored 12 wins against Hall of Famers overall, and he scored a total of 19 title fight wins. Pacquiao made 10 defences across his various reigns, and he also scored 9 title fight KOs. Now, Pacquiao scored a total of 39 knockouts in his career, and he was pound for pound rated, dwarfing everyone else on this countdown, being pound for pound rated for a whole decade at 10 years throughout his career. He was also pound for pound number 1 rated for 3 individual years of his career. And in terms of wins against pound for pounders, Pacquiao demolishes everyone else in top 10, scoring an impressive for a modern fighter 16 wins against pound for pound fighters. He also scored 3 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And in world titles won, the great Manny Pacquiao captured 10 world titles and 5 lineal titles, but no undisputed titles. In fact, Pacquiao never unified. I keep telling people he tried multiple times. The first was to Agapito Sanchez. That fight did not end in a win for Pacquiao, technical draw. Then the first Juan Manuel Marquez fight, were it WBA and IBF featherweight titles on line. That fight ended a draw, and then of course he tried to unify with Floyd Mayweather Jr. 3 attempts to unify, 3 attempts failed, but that does not reduce Pacquiao. Yeah, it's a mark on him, but he's got so many ticks, that the odd cross here or there is not going to diminish his overall greatness. To me, Pacquiao is still, until replaced, all due respect to Inoue and all due respect to Usyk and Crawford, their resumes cannot even compare to Manny Pacquiao. Their accomplishments struggle to compare to Manny Pacquiao. In terms of titles and divisions, Terence Crawford has done fantastically well. Other fighters like Canelo Alvarez and Inoue have done fantastically well. But to me, Pacquiao is still the number one for now until someone comes along who I believe has replaced him. And in terms of my overall automated rankings, you know, it's going to take one hell of a fighter to move Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao in all the last 40 years, he beats every other fighter in my all-time rankings with a much higher career score. So to me, the great Manny Pacquiao, the great man himself, fully deserves to be number one on this list. I would be very surprised if I watched any Filipino list and did not have Manny Pacquiao at number one. And you know, I say that because I always kind of stress that, well, no one has to be number one or number three or number four. But I think in this case, when you're looking at Filipino boxers, there's one absolute standout, and that is this great man here. So there ends my top 10 Filipino boxers of all time for 2025. Of course, in later editions of this video over coming years, fighters like Donny Nietes and the excellent Nonito Donaire, a fighter I've raved about for years, loved watching him, fantastically accomplished fighter, great little Filipino fighter he was. He will of course enter my all-time rankings at some point over the next few years, and we'll see where the fantastic Nonito Donaire places. But until then, well, it won't place above Pacquiao, let's be fair. But we will see where he plays. I've no doubt Donaire will score well in top 10 Filipino boxers, but he will not dethrone this absolute legend right here. So that is my top 10 Filipino boxers. I am the Boxing Librarian. I'm out for now.